قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, والإيمان هو التصديق بما جاء به النبي من عند الله والإقرار به. The author, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, faith, it is verifying that with which the Prophet came from God, that which the Prophet came with it from God, verifying what the Prophet came with it from God. وَالْإِقْرَارُ بِهِ, yani verifying it and confessing to it. Verifying it here means inwardly, deeming it true. At-TaSdeeq means deeming it true, and al-iqraru bihi means confessing to it verbally. الشرح أن الإيمان في الشرع هو التصديق بالقلب بما جاء به النبي من عند الله تعالى والإقرار به باللسان. The explanation is that faith, according to the sacred law, it is the verification by the heart, yani verifying that with which the Prophet came with from God, exalted is He, and confessing to it by the tongue, which that's the Islam. Yani the Iman just by itself is the TaSdeeq, which won't be valid without the confession. The confession is the Islam, because the Islam is the outward display. The Iman is the inward verification. The Islam is the outward display. So one has to believe inwardly. He has to do something for the validity of his faith. He has to do something inwardly and outwardly. The inward part is what he has in his heart. The outward part for verifying his faith is what he pronounces with his tongue. And that outward part is the Islam. It is the submission. And that inward part, it is the belief. But the belief won't be valid without the submission. And the submission won't be valid without the belief. So the Islam part, which is the outward action, it is part of the definition of the faith, because the faith won't be valid without that outward display. And when we want to define the Islam, that outward display, it is integral to the definition that we talk about the inner verification, because the Islam, the outward display won't be valid without that inward verification, that inner verification. أي أن الإيمان يشمل كلا الأمرين, meaning that faith includes both matters. Yani the faith won't be valid without both matters. Without the yani, because the Iman linguistically is the TaSdeeq. And TaSdeeq, it comes from the heart. True TaSdeeq is going to be in the heart of a creature, not just by his tongue. He can give you with his tongue while something's not in his heart. And the Islam is the outward display. That's why it was said about those Bedouins, وَلَكِنْ قُولُوا أَسْلَمْنَا, rather say we have submitted. Meaning, say we have merely performed an outward display. وَلَمَّا يَدْخُلِ الْإِيمَانُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ, but the inward verification has yet to enter your hearts. That's the ayah. Maybe it's coming, inshallah. فَيُعْلَمُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ أَنَّهُ إِذَا انْتَفَى التَّصْدِيقُ انْتَفَى الْإِيمَانِ. And so it is known from this that if that literal inward verification is missing, then the religious faith is missing. وَالتَّصْدِيقُ مَحَلُّهُ الْقَلْبِ. And the TaSdeeq, which is the linguistic meaning of Iman, its place is the heart. It's not the Iqrar that's the linguistic meaning of Iman. It's the TaSdeeq that's the linguistic meaning of the Iman. So the true reality of the Iman is something inward, but it has to be accompanied with something outward too. فَمَنْ لَمْ يُصَدِّقُ بِقَلْبِهِ وَنَطَقَ بِلِسَانِهِ فَهُوَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ كَافِرٌ. So anyone who does not verify by his heart, but he does pronounce with his tongue, then to God he is a disbeliever. وَأَمَّا عِنْدَنَا فَهُوَ بِحَسَبِ الظَّاهِرِ فَهُوَ بِحَسَبِ الظَّاهِرِ مُؤْمِنٌ Muslim. But as far as we are concerned, according to what appears, he is a believing Muslim. It's because we have no way to witness what is in his heart. So we can only take by the outward display. We have nothing more than the outward display to rely on. وهذا بالنسبة لمن كان كافرا فأراد الدخول في الإسلام. And this is in reference to someone who was a disbeliever and wanted to enter into Islam. فهو الذي لا يصح له الإيمان إلا بالأمرين. So that's the one who faith is not valid from him except by the two matters. التصديق بالقلب والإقرار باللسان. The verification by the heart and the confession by the tongue. فالإقرار هو ركن لا يحتمل السقوط. And so confession is an integral that cannot tolerate absence, that cannot tolerate being inapplicable. إلا فيما استثناه الشرع, except concerning some case that the sacred law has exempted. وهو من له عذر, and that would be someone who has an excuse. بأن كان عاجزا عن النطق, by being unable to pronounce. فلا يشترط النطق في حقه. So pronouncing then is not a condition in his case because he's unable. ثم هذا شرطه ألا يصدر منه ما هو تكذيب. And then this one, his condition is that nothing of renouncing the religion issues forth from him. A يثبت أنه يكذب الدين, meaning there shouldn't be anything that confirms that he contradicts the religion. Here's a case for you. A person was a believer, and in his ignorance he committed apostasy, and so he's a kafir. Then he learns his religion, and he learns about blasphemy, and he never remembered that he committed any blasphemy, but he did know what is blasphemy, and he renounces blasphemy. He hates blasphemy, and he doesn't want to be in blasphemy. So while this apostate is now knowledgeable about blasphemy and hating it and believing in Islam, and then he says the Shahada, then he's a Muslim. And then if he remembers after that, now who's going to tell me the answer? You're not going to guess if you don't know. If he remembers after that the actual case, would he be obligated to repeat his Shahada? Do you remember the answer here? Would he be obligated to repeat his Shahada now that he remembered the actual case that happened to him? No, he would not be obligated to repeat his Shahada now. Why not? Because he fulfilled the conditions. He renounces blasphemy, because he fulfilled the conditions. He renounced blasphemy. He knows what's blasphemy and what's not blasphemy. He doesn't believe in blasphemy. He doesn't maintain or hold any blasphemy. And he says the Shahada believing in it. This is enough to make him a Muslim. Now he's a Muslim. So in the scenario I gave you, the person didn't even realize that he went out of Islam and came back in. Yeah, he said the Shahada believing in it. The real condition is to say the Shahada believing in it, without having any blasphemy, of course. Without renouncing the religion. So, just this, weekend, there was a woman who needed to become a Muslimah, yani, because she wasn't a Muslimah. So someone asked me to talk to her. So I talked to her, and she's accepting, and she's liking what she's hearing. And she asked me some questions, and then I'll just answer her. We actually wound up, I briefly told her about the story of Prophet Salih, because we were talking about angels in the midst of what we were talking about. And in the story of Prophet Salih, the angel came down to scream at the people. So I told her the story of Prophet Salih alayhi salam really briefly, like within 5 or 4 minutes. And she liked everything she was hearing. Like, you know how when somebody hears the knowledge and they're like, wow, this is real. So that's how she was. So I was like, okay, she's going to become a Muslimah. So I said to her, you need to become a Muslimah. Now you're going to embrace Islam. You're going to repeat after me. You're going to say what I'm telling you to say, believing in it. You're going to say this, and you're going to say it believing in it. She said, okay. She said, okay. So I said, now repeat after me. And then she repeated after me. So then after she repeated after me, so then I said to her, now you're a Muslimah. She said, wow, I am? So what happened here? She didn't renounce it. So, but the person who was with me wasn't clear. He said, she doesn't know. She doesn't understand. So later on, I explained for him what's the judgment. Because when I told her that she was a Muslimah, she accepted. She didn't renounce it. She accepted that. And then I even said to her, because he said, she's not clear. I said to her, you had to say it believing in it. She said, I did. So khalas. Then the condition is fulfilled. So that person said to me, but some people, if you did that to them, they would say, oh, I didn't know that this is what I was getting involved in. So I told him, so if the person said the Shahada believing in it, but then he renounced being a Muslim, then he'd be a kafir. But if somebody says the Shahada believing in it and he doesn't renounce being a Muslim, he's not a kafir. And I had explained to her what's the right belief. The belief in Allah, the belief in the prophets. The only thing I didn't explain, which I usually would, was that Islam is the only correct religion. And then the person who was with me added that for her. That person said, yes, and know that Islam is the only valid religion. And she accepted. I tell you. So this will confuse some people. But this case really makes it much easier. To understand this makes it much easier for someone who has waswas. And also makes it easier to understand how someone could be ignorant, but still he's a Muslim, and maybe it's even possible that he might go out of Islam and come back into Islam. But we did learn a lot of times this statement, saying the Shahada with the intention of embracing Islam. So, yani, if you want to be so meticulous here, it could be stated in a different way, without those words. Saying the Shahada, believing in it, and believing in it means while not believing any blasphemy, not having any blasphemy, then this is enough to make a person a Muslim. فإذا اقترن بهذا التصديق والإقرار ما يوجب الكفر لكونه تكذيبا للدين. So, when there is associated with this verification and with this confession that which still dictates blasphemy because of it being a contradiction of the religion, فهو غير مؤمن ولا مسلم, then such a person would not be a believer nor would be a Muslim. كأن يسجد لصنم, like for him to prostrate to an idol, من غير إكراه, without any compulsion or coercion. أو يرمي المصحف في القاذورات عمدا بلا إكراه, or for him to throw a Quran book into the trash deliberately without any compulsion. وكذلك ما شابه هذين مما هو دليل على تكذيب على تكذيب النبي. And likewise, whatever is like these two cases amongst what is an indication of contradicting the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. ولو كان هذا الذي ظهر منه ما يقتضي تكذيب النبي قلبه مطمئن بالإيمان فإنه يكفر. And even if this person from whom there appeared what dictates that he contradicts the Prophet, even if this person's heart was firm with faith, meaning in terms of believing in the actual tenets of the belief, like in God's uniqueness and in the Prophet's truthfulness and the likes of this, he does believe that this is really the case, but he did what contradicts that. فإنه يكفر, he still blasphemes. فيخرج من الإيمان والإسلام بفعله ذلك, and so he will go out of faith and out of Islam by that doing of his. إن كان عملا بدنيا وإن كان قولا لسانيا, whether that were a bodily deed or a tongue saying. فَمَنْ رَمَى الْمُصْحَفَ فِي الْقَاذُورَاتِ أَوْ سَجَدَ لِصَنَمٍ, so anyone who throws a Quran book in the trash or prostrates to an idol. لَوْ كَانَ قَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ, if his heart were firm with faith, yani, he believes that what the religion said is true, he believes that, فَهُوَ كَافِرٌ, he's still a disbeliever actually. خَرَجَ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ وَالْإِسْلَامِ, he went out of faith and Islam. كَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَسُبُّ اللَّهِ, likewise the one who insults God. أو يسب رسوله, or he insults his messenger. لو كان قلبه مطمئنا بالإيمان خرج من الإيمان والإسلام, even if his heart were firm with faith, meaning even if he believed that the religion is true, he still went out of faith and he went out of Islam. وهذا هو الحق الذي لا خلاف فيه بين أهل الحق, and this is the truth, that there's no difference about it amongst the people of the truth. فَلْيُحْذَرْ مِنْ بَعْضِ الْكُتَّابِ al-asriyin, so let there be warning from some contemporary authors. فَإِنَّهُمْ قَالُوا لَا يَخْرُجُ الْإِنسَانُ مِنَ الْإِسْلَامِ بِنُطْقِهِ بِكَلِمَاتِ الرِّدَّةِ إِلَّا أَنْ يَكُونَ شَارِحًا صَدْرَهُ. Indeed, they said that a person would not exit Islam by pronouncing words of apostasy unless his heart were receptive to that blasphemy, nawiyan mu'taqida, and unless he was intending to blaspheme and holding the conviction of blasphemy. وَهَذَا قَوْلُ صَاحِبِ فِقْهِ السُّنَّةِ, and this is the saying of the author of Fiqh Sunnah, Sayyid Sabiq, the Egyptian. وَمِنْ أَعْجَبِ الْعُجُبِ استدلاله على دعواه هذه بقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم إنما الأعمال بالنيات. And amongst the most baffling of astonishing things is his using as evidence for his claim this saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the deeds are merely by the intentions. فكيف غاب عنه أن هذا الحديث محله الأعمال المأمور بها. So how did he miss the fact that this hadith is in reference to practical worships that are commanded to be done, كالصلاة والصيام والحج والزكاة, like prayer and fasting and pilgrimage and zakat. فإنها هي التي لا تُعَدُّ مُعْتَبَرَةً إِلَّا بِالنِّيَّةِ. These are the things that are not regarded as, they are not regarded. They are not counted as regarded except with an intention. Because they're good deeds. A bad deed doesn't require an intention. Subhanallah, that's what you say to a person. You tell them, what makes you think a bad deed needs an intention? If somebody drinks wine and he doesn't make an intention, he's not going to get the sin? وَأَمَّا الْكُفْرُ وَالْمَعَاصِي فَلَا تَدْخُلُ تَحْتَ الْحَدِيثِ. As for blasphemy and sins, those are not included under this hadith. فإذا كان الطلاق والنكاح والرجعة تصح في الجد والهزل. If it's the case that, when it's the case that divorce and marriage and reinstating the wife are valid while joking or pretending, فكيف لا يثبت الكفر بالهزل والمزح. Then how would blasphemy not be confirmed when one is pretending and joking? فَسُبْحَانَ الَّذِي يَفْتَحُ قُلُوبَ مَنْ شَاءَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ لِلِاهْتِدَاءِ بِالْحَقِّ. And so far from imperfection is he who opens the hearts of whomever he wills of his slaves to the guidance, to the truth. وَيُقْفِلُ قُلُوبَ مَنْ شَاءَ عَنْ فَهْمِهِ. And far from imperfection is he who locks the hearts of whomever he wills and prevents them from comprehension. وَتَبِعَهُ فِي ذَلِكَ مُعَاصِرُ فِي لُبْنَانَ. And following that one we just mentioned, Sayyid Sabiq, is a contemporary from Lebanon. فَشَرَطَ لِلْحُكْمِ بِالْكُفْرِ عَلَى قَائِلِهِ أَنْ يَخْتَارَ دِينًا سِوَى الْإِسْلَامِ. He made it a condition for judging a speaker with blasphemy that he actively chooses a religion different from Islam. وَهَذَا أَشْنَعُ مِنَ الْأَوَّلِ. And saying this is even worse than the first thing. فَلْيُحْذَرْ كُلُّ ذَلِكَ وَلْيُحَذَّرْ مِنْهِ. So let there be warning. So beware of all of that and let there be warning from it. وَلَيْتَ شِعْرِي مَاذَا excuse me. وَلَيْتَ شِعْرِي مَاذَا يَقُولُ هَؤُلَاءِ. And I wish I knew, what would those people say? لَوْ سُئِلُوا عَمَّنْ قَذَفَ مُؤْمِنًا بِزِنَا. Had they been asked about someone who accused a Muslim of adultery, هل يجرى عليه عندهم حكم القذف? Would the rule of the one who accuses another of zina be applicable to this person? الذي هو الحد, the rule which is a revealed punishment. إن كان مازحا, even if he were pretending, joking. أم لا يجرى عليه, or would he say, no, it's not applicable to him. إلا إن كان جادا, this punishment wouldn't be applicable to him unless he were serious. ولا أراهم يقولون بالفرق. The Shaykh says, I don't see that they would make a difference between the cases. فكيف كان عند هؤلاء الكفر أهون من قذف إنسان وشتمه. So how is it, according to those people, something lighter than accusing a person of zina and insulting him? Here, وَلَا أَرَاهُمْ يَقُولُونَ بِالْفَرْقِ. I don't see that they would make a difference. Meaning, Shaykh saying, I don't see that they would make a difference between the one who accuses the believer of zina by pretend or seriously. He says, I don't think they would make a difference here. فكيف كان عند هؤلاء الكفر أهون من قذف إنسان. So how, according to those people, would blasphemy be less significant than accusing a person of zina وَشَتْمِهِ, and insulting him. Because they're saying about kufr what they wouldn't say about the accusation. They're saying, for the kufr, you have to only be serious. If you're just joking, you won't be committing kufr. Shaykh saying, if you were to ask them about the sin of qadhf, accusing the Muslim of zina, what if the person were pretending? The Shaykh saying, I don't think they're going to excuse him for pretending here. So how could they deem this easier than blasphemy? That shows that their scale is broken. They are unjust, according to one of the definitions of being unjust, of being a zalim, a wrongdoer. One of the definitions of being a zalim is putting something out of place. Mishandling something, putting something out of place. Tanbih, alert. قال جمهور علماء أهل السنة والجماعة. The majority of the scholars of the people of the prophetic way and the majority of the nation said, إن إيمان المقلد صحيح. The faith of a mimic in creed is valid. So this is close to what we were saying too. والمقلد هو الذي يعتقد العقيدة الحقة من غير دليل. The meaning of the mimic is the one who does believe the correct conviction, but he has no evidence. لكنه عاص بترك الاستدلال. But he would be sinful for abandoning, inferring some proof for the validity of his belief. Who's this mimic we're talking about here? This is a person who lived in some prairie somewhere or some mountaintop somewhere away from scholars. And then one day, some Muslims came to his prairie or to his mountaintop. And he saw these people and he watched them and how they behaved and he liked them and he found them civilized and mannerly and knowledgeable and religious. So he said, these people are on the truth. I want to be like them. I want to be one of them. So then he goes to someone and says, how can I be one of you? So the person says to him, say, no one is God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. And so he says it wanting to be a Muslim. So then he's a Muslim. For example, it's not a condition that he knows the name of Islam to become a Muslim. It's not a condition that he knows the name Muslim to become a Muslim. He needs to say the Shahada believing in it, without any blasphemy in his conviction when he says it. وَقَالُوا يَكْفِي الْإِسْتِدْلَالُ الطَّبِيعِي. And the scholar said, just a natural inference is sufficient. وَهُوَ أَنَّ وُجُودَ الْعَالَمِ دَلِيلٌ عَلَى وُجُودِ الْبَارِئِ. Which is that the existence of the world is evidence for the existence of the Creator. ولا يخلو من ذلك إلا شخص نشأ بشاهق جبل. And no one is lacking this except someone who grew up on some mountaintop. فسمع الناس يقولون. And he heard the people saying, إن للخلق ربا خلقهم. He heard the people saying, indeed, the creations have a Lord who created them. يستحق العبادة عليهم. He deserves to be worshipped by them. وَصَدَّقَهُمْ إِجْلَالًا لَهُمْ عَنِ الْخَطَأِ. And this one who heard that, he believes them because he sees them greater than to be mistaken here. He believes them. He doesn't think they're wrong. ويدل على وجوب الاستدلال آيات. And what proves the obligation of inferring even the simplest of rational arguments, the simplest of rational proofs to verify that you have the right religion? Amongst what proves this is ayat, some verses of the Quran. Minha qawluhu ta'ala. Amongst them is what God said, أولم ينظروا في ملكوت السماوات والأرض وما خلق الله من شيء. Did they not look into the kingdom of heavens and earth, or did they not look into the realm of heavens and earth and at what Allah created of all sorts of things? And the looking here means pondering. Did they not look at, meaning ponder on that? That's 185th verse of Surah Al-A'raf. وَقَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى, and also God said, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب. Surely, in the marvels of the creation of the heavens and earth, and the variance of the night and the day, which is that they alternate and they get longer and shorter as the seasons progress, there are indeed signs for the intellectuals. الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم. Those who remember Allah or mention Allah when standing or sitting or even on their sides. Yani they always making dhikr. Always, always, always. Like what was the case of our Shaykh. He'll be giving a lesson, and then if he stops talking in terms of delivering his message, his lesson, in terms of delivering his lesson, for one reason or another he stopped talking, that's only that he stopped talking for the lesson, but right then he's going to start making dhikr until he's ready to talk again. And this is very intelligent, because he is filling all his time with good deeds. So some pious geniuses like that, they're going to fill all their waking hours with worship. Yani, all their waking seconds with worship. They don't want to miss a second without worship. While, yani, some normal people like ourselves, we might say, let me watch a movie. Let me play a video game. Even a movie is lighter than a video game, because you can't really make dhikr while you play a video game. Not like if you were watching a movie. But anyway. وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. So they mention Allah standing or sitting or even laying on their sides. Always. They never stop mentioning Allah. Or they never stop dhikr. Yani, you can count your lesson as dhikr, the lesson you're giving. And then after that, you can make more dhikr, which is the traditional meaning of dhikr. وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And they think about the creation of heavens and earth. They ponder on the creations of heavens and earth. They say, look, this heavens and earth, everything is contained inside of 6 directions, moving or still, and touching or with distance between them, and having colors and shapes. And these objects, they have different sizes. So that means there must be indivisible particles. There must be atoms that all these objects are made of. And other things he would say because of thinking, pondering on heavens and earth. رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. They say, our Lord, you have not created this in vain. You have not created this for no benefit. Wallahu a'lam. We're going to stop there. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.